rear leaf springs. 65 Ranchero, same as a 60 to 65 Falcon pretty much. There are a couple of differences I'm going to show you, but we're going to start our removal of the rear leaf springs so that we can replace the rear frame rail on this thing, which is really badly rusted and pretty dangerous if you ask me. I'll show you in a minute. Restoration of a classic Ford is a journey of discovery. Let Autocrafters help you with yours. We offer quality parts for Falcon, Fairlane, F-Series, Galaxy, Maverick, and Pinto. Contact us today. All right, first things first, I'm going to take the shocks out in order to make all this work. You have to take the rear axle out in order to take the springs out of the car. So shocks are going to come out first. Ranchero, you'll have to remove this huge plate in the back. You'll probably have to cut bolts out if it's been in there forever. Station wagon, it's behind the seat. Same thing with the hard tops. Everything basically sits right where this is on this exposed section here. It's just really hard to see and get to when you're talking about a hard top. You might have an easier time taking the upper part of the back seat out of the car in order to get to them. I've already removed the retaining clip. That's this piece right here. This goes down on the top of the shocks a lot of times to keep this nut from walking out. I'm going to attempt to just use an impact to remove this. Sometimes this works, sometimes it does not. And then I'll have to show you the other way. Well, that's good. That's not even any impact noises. That was those are probably a lot looser than I'd want them to be. But the reason for that probably is that I have pressure on the rear axle pushing up. So it's pushing those shocks up into the floor, causing them to take the pressure off of the stud. Ergo, the shocks will come out from the top. I'm going to leave that pressure on there because it's going to apply pressure to the bottom. And now I've got to swing up underneath the car, see if I can get the bottom ones to come out as easily as those did. If they do not come out, I'm going to show you one little tip. You'll have to go in there with a combination wrench, sometimes usually in a 9/16 size for the rear. And if that starts to spin on you, you'll want to get a set of locking pliers and throw the locking pliers on like this. Gotta get up on my tippy toes. And all you're trying to do with the locking pliers is hold that in place while you take the nut off from here. Luckily, we didn't have to do that because I had an electric impact. All right, going underneath. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I've got the axle jacked up still. We are on jack stands, so they're lightly sitting on the jack stand, so I don't have to worry about any teeter issues with it wanting to fall down on me. And I'm going to take this and try to undo this bolt. Yeah, and that's what can happen sometimes, is that'll start to spin on you. And it's stuck, and it's busted up. We may have to cut this one off. All right, I'm going to clean off the stud a little bit with a wire brush to help me along here. I'm going to grab my pliers, which what I'm using is a set of these are vice grips. You can get any of these kind of locking pliers. I like these because of the jaws on them. I'm going to put those on the body of the shock. I'm going to open them up just a little bit more. So I've got a good tight squeeze on it. It's going to be a lot of stuff underneath here. Ow. I'm going to drag my impact under here with me. Let's see if we can get this thing to come out now. All right. Come on. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to take the shackles assembly off of here. Now, the nice thing about the Rancheros and station wagons is these two bolts, this one here and this one here, just bolt to this mount and you can drop this down. Otherwise, you have to remove the tank in order to take the shackle assembly off. One thing you can run into is a spinning nut on the other side of these bolts. I got really fortunate and a little scared at just exactly how loose these things are. I mean, they are that loose right there. And I don't know if, well, I'm not going to say anything. This car's been through a lot in its life, so I'm a little shocked by what I got going on here, but I'm also kind of excited because it's easier to get them out. I thought that we were going to have a battle on our hands where these two bolts were concerned. I have had the nut certs on the other side of this cause a problem. And it may be that these are getting in trouble here, but I don't think so. I'll show you something that you can try to do if they don't come out. What you can do, since that one did come out, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. What you can do is you can actually take and drop the suspension down on the chassis to put pressure on that plate right there. Get this last one out of here, and then we'll move to the other side and do the same thing over there. I'm a little more worried about the passenger side one because that one is the one where we have the rusty frame rail. So this may be more of a problem over there than it is over here. I'm not looking at it. All right. Now that spring shackle is just hanging there. It's actually pressurizing against the frame rail here. All right, I'm gonna do the other side. There is no way to look really pretty doing this, just saying. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you what we've got going on here. We've shown this before, but this is what's happening to this back part of this frame rail. Because you have a shock mount here, I don't want any of this stuff to keep going the way it is. The rust is pretty bad, so we've got a frame rail that we picked up from a guy years and years ago. These bolts, I've already kind of gone at them a little bit, so I feel like I'm pretty good here. This one I've already loosened up completely. These are the ones I was the most worried about. Because the axle is still captive in the front, we should be pretty good here. Don't want to lose those bolts because they are per this application. Because we've got the jack on the axle, I think that one just did what I was talking about. It just came loose. Yep. So now we have a problem. Or a project, depending on how you want to look at it. I'm going to end up having to sacrifice that bolt just to get this out of here. I'm going to try dropping the axle on this and seeing if that'll do what I need it to do. But I think what's happening is with that spin, we probably have a good bit of rust on the inside of this that's causing an issue on that particular bolt.
A few hours later.
Now the Ranchero and the wagon are the only two that use this mounting procedure. Everything else mounts through the frame rails, and the shackles are just a lot easier to get off. Kind of like what I'm showing you here. All right, now I want to make sure that I've got everything off the rear axle before we pull this thing out of here. The next step is going to be taking the front eyelets loose up here. That's probably going to be the biggest pain in the butt we're going to do. But we do have one line that is left that is a brake line. Now this brake line, if you're not doing like we're doing and changing out the fuel line and the brake line and everything else, and we just went ahead and cut all this stuff off, if you're not doing that, you're going to have to undo this line right here. I don't have to do that because it's already been taken care of, so to speak. So I have to go in here and take this clip loose. And you can just poke that out, hopefully. True goal. Now, the axle is completely free, or at least reasonably priced, and we can take this thing and move on to our frame rail bolts and nuts. I'm a little worried. You know, the nice thing about working with youth of today is they don't know squat. These are installed incorrectly. Logan put these lugs on, and this would be a heck of a handful if we were trying to drive it down the road, because you want to have that shoulder facing in on the wheel. In other words, the shoulder goes up against there. You can even see on this one that the wheel is not sitting correctly on there. I got to pull these off because we're going to go in and try to use some leverage, so to speak, in order to get the springs to come out. So I'm going to take the wheels off and then we'll start working on that. But I kind of wanted to point that out because there's things that I think are obvious that apparently to an 18-year-old man are not. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hopefully take this bolt here out. This is the eyelet bolt for your leaf spring. It's a 3/4 on both sides. And boy, is it loud. Right. We got lucky today, ladies and gentlemen, at least on this side, because the bolt will come out. Luckily, we're in a neutral enough position on the chassis that that bolt comes right out of there. I'm going to probably stick it back in there just to give me some positioning. I think what's going on is this rear end has probably been out of this car before, but I'm pretty excited about that. That coming out that easily is nice. If it doesn't come out, it gets uglier from here, and I'll go over that in just a second. Let me go ahead and get the other side out, and we'll talk about it while I sit comfortably on a chair, not shoved up underneath the butt end of a 65 Ranchero. Let's go. Yes! All right, I'm going to try to pull the axle out. So I'm going to lift it up a little bit so I'm flat and drop it down a little bit. And it's going to go off sides because that's what axles do. All right, I'm going to dip down here. Axle has rolled backwards, causing it to go up into the front spring perch a little bit. And it's going to run into pretty much everything it can on the way out the door, so to speak. I won't say this is the safest way to do this, but it is a way to do this. One 1965 Ranchero rear axle that was probably in something else out of the car. Now we're going to refinish this rear axle, re-brake it and all that with our friends at Autocrafters. We're going to be working on that here in the near future, but for right now we just want it out. We'll be getting springs from the guys at Eaton Detroit Spring. That's a lot of work. Some days you're the bug, some days you're the windshield. Today we were decidedly the windshield. Everything came out pretty much like butter. We had that one bolt that fouled us, but I went ahead and was able to take the shackles apart because that's the open side on the Ranchero, so that worked out okay. What I want to talk about real quick is if you have frozen bolts inside of the sleeves. Now what I always do with this stuff, and we'll go into this when we put the rear leafs back in and talk about installing rear leafs, is I always put some Never Seez on the shank of the bolt so that it will come out like this one did. If you don't do that, there's a good chance of that rusting to that inner sleeve, and boy howdy, you're going to have a lot of fun. About the only couple of ways I know to remove it is to actually use a torch and cut the spring curl, cut that off. And what I will typically do then is I'll cut the spring off right where I'm showing you, and then also go in and cut across the top of the wraparound, and then that will allow you to take that out, and then it's easier to get in there and cut the bolt out. A lot of guys will go in and they'll burn the rubber out of the center of the bolt, making it a little easier to get in there and cut that with a Sawzall or a cutoff wheel. I prefer using a cutoff wheel if I've got one that's big enough to get in that opening there, because it's just a lot faster and easier, and I like faster and easier. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way though. But we did get pretty darn lucky today. Speaking of lucky, do you want to be lucky? Well, if you want to be lucky, go out and check out our Patreon account. At the $10 a month level, you get monthly meetings with me. And what I want you to be able to do is to know that if we've ever done anything for you that helps you out with your car, which I'm hoping these videos do, then maybe you should think about supporting us on a monthly basis. $10 is a normal amount. There are lesser and there are more amounts. The list that's going up beside me over here, these are the guys who put their money where their mouth is for real. These guys are $10 a month and more supporters. If you want your name on this list, it's going to be $10, but you're supporting a good cause, because this is how I pay Andrew. We're trying to teach Andrew that this is not a government job. It is not a government job. We don't do that. He's got to be paid out of what we make, so that's how we're working this. It also goes to support the kids on Saturday who come in here and help us, because those guys are the ones that make this whole thing go, and they're learning a trade. They're coming in here to learn how to do film production. Speaking of things that we want you to do, go out and subscribe to the channel. We're at 98,000 something. If YouTube doesn't go and do some kind of mass killing of subscriptions, we should be at 100,000 subscriptions by February, probably middle of the month. That's what we're thinking if things keep going the way they've been going. Hopefully this kind of video will be very good for us on that front. Also, you know where we're going next? It's Super Thanks. Buddy, if you want to do it just one time, you say, I don't want to do the Patreon. Well, Super Thanks is the way to go to that. You can give us a one-time, hey, thanks, this really helped. Whatever amount you want to put in there, if you want to put a 2 cents in because you don't think I did a good job, I'll take your 2 cents from you right now, because that's the kind of guy I am. Do me a favor, folks. Be kind to each other, love on each other, treat each other nice. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you on down that road. I actually had fun today. That's a really weird thing to say. But when I went to lunch a little while ago, I thought to myself, I'm actually enjoying myself today. Weirdly, I'm feeling pretty good right now. It's nice. It's nice to want to be able to get out here and not feel like everything I do is going to kill me physically. I mean, this could have killed me, like falling on me, but it didn't. Everything went out. It's fine. It's great. Frame rail's coming soon. Stay tuned for that. All of this is in preparation for us putting the frame rail in. By the way, frame rail's back behind me. We're going to show you how to cut it apart. We're going to show you how to take it out. We're going to show you how to put it in. So there you go. It's on the way. Bye.